Okay, so I'm going to do a quick video. This is a short video. Just going to demonstrate how I'm doing the skin tone. If you want longer videos, make sure and sign up and follow me on Patreon. On Patreon, I'll be showing videos and also talking to you about what colors I'm using and step-by-step instructions on strokes and blending, etc. So if you sign up now on Patreon, it's after the 1st, or it's actually already the 1st. So if you sign up now on Patreon, you'll be included in April's videos. But if you want to get any videos, you just sign for the full amount. If you go at least $5 on Patreon, you'll be able to have access to my next month's video, or that month, whatever month you pledge $5 for. You'll have that full month of videos with instructions and real-time drawing. I am just doing a real short clip to show you how, contrary to belief, popular belief, everybody that knows that I do just like one little tiny piece at a time, like this. Sometimes I do lay it out all over, like I'll put a base down and figure the tone, what the tone is going to be, and kind of lay the first layers down first. I do that sometimes on like a larger section, especially whenever the skin tone in that area is very similar, instead of being like very ever-changing, like every tiny little piece. Sometimes I do work where I'm just like this little tiny piece at a time, and that's the majority of the time I do that. But occasionally I kind of want to lay out that area just to make sure I've got my tones right, my proportions, and everything feels good. Then when I get that base coat down, I will go right back over it and start doing the tiny little areas again, where I can kind of see, where I can just get like that little tiny piece at a time. And if you've ever watched me draw and talk, it takes great effort to talk and draw something detailed like this and have either the words come out properly or the artwork be drawn properly. So it's easier to stop and then talk and then do a little bit. It's hard to do both at the same time. It's much worse than, what is it, the pat your head and rub your tummy thing. It's much more difficult than that, in my case, to sit here and draw and talk. So if I say something that comes out of my mouth wrong, you know why. So anyway, I am going back and doing the layering still and doing the tiny little sections, but first I do sometimes lay out that base, and then I'll go back with different colors until I get all the colors in that particular area of the face, the color I want, and then I go back over it multiple times, smoothing it and putting in the right shadows, or if there's any like a light reflection there, you know, I will break that down bit by bit, piece by piece, every like quarter of an inch. And then I still, once I even do that, working on this little quarter of an inch at a time like this, I still have to go back over it and come up here and then look for little tiny areas that need to be smoothed, or a little bit better transition or gradient. So it's not always just because I've left an area like this. Doesn't necessarily mean that I'm done with that area. I still have to go back and finish it. So it's even though, yes, you know, I get a lot of comments like, how do you work in this tiny little pieces like this and move along the way and not do the whole picture first? Most of the time that is how I work. And even whenever I am doing the whole picture, I still come back and work on these tiny little areas, one little piece at a time, and then I look at my reference photo and make sure that I've got that color tone, shade, value, everything accurate for that tiny little spot. Each little spot on her face gets about the same amount of attention as another little spot. It's not, to me, the breaking it down like this in the tiny little sections, like little tiny quarter of an inch sections or half an inch sections, that is going to ensure that it's photorealistic. If I tried to do the whole thing, I would be looking at the big picture. But I guess when I draw, I'm looking at the details, the fine details, not the big picture. Overall, yes, if I capture these tiny details and I take my time on every little tiny square inch, that once I do that, I know the big picture is going to be fine. But the little details have to be there. and have to be captured accurately in order for the big picture to work. So I'm not a big picture kind of person. I'm a very tiny, minute, detailed kind of person. Oops, shook my camera there, sorry. So I'm just taking little tiny bits at a time. It's important to me if I see the light magenta in a spot that I capture that. Sometimes the whole face doesn't have that same tone. That's what makes it look so lively and fresh. Every little tiny section of the face has a different color tone depending on how the light is hitting it, realistically depending on everything down to the tiny little blood vessels in the face, I guess. There are little tiny blemishes and pores, and all of that changes the color tone and value of every section of the face. So I have to be really careful to look at every little tiny detail. And to get it smooth, where you don't really see the pencil strokes, it does take a lot of layering and little tiny movements. So I'll be going back over. After I'm done, I'll look back at the whole picture and I see, okay, well, there's a couple of spots here that I can still see a little lack of blending area. It needs to be perfectly blended for my satisfaction. So I'll go back over it again. And then when the piece is completely finished, there'll be a whole nother going over it, kind of like a top coat, just to make sure that everything is blended smooth and evenly. So I do work on the whole piece at once, or now I kind of go back over here. I haven't visited this side that much because I'm feeling pretty confident about that area. But once the whole piece is done, I'll start seeing that there is little pieces that made this side look a little different. So the more color I get on the paper, the more accurate the area I'm working on it becomes, because there's not that bright white in your face. So I understand why people want to work whole picture, like just putting a whole background on it. It just doesn't work for me. I really need to be able to concentrate on each tiny detail as I move along and see the finished piece kind of pop out at me. I say finished piece, the semi-finished piece. But anyway, so most of the time, yes. And I know a lot of you are like, well, how do you do that? Like tiny little section at a time. This is kind of like a big section that I laid out. And you can see that it's lighter and it's not finished. It's like the under the base coat, so that the white's not staring at me, and helps me keep the color balance and the tone and values. So I know that it's all going to be darker than this. Every area here is going to be darker, so I'll just stay here with that base, and then stay here. That just came out of my mouth because I'm trying to draw and talk at the same time. So I know this is all going to be lighter, so I know I'm okay to just lay at least the light coat down, and where I see magenta, I'll pull in some magenta in the background real light, just so I know to make sure and capture that when I get to it. But it helps me balance it out just by laying a little section out and then to go back over and start working on the tiny little sections again, working my way down till I meet this line. Then I'll start again. If you want to learn how to tie it all in and how to know what colors to use, how to blend, what my strokes are, because sometimes it's deceiving just looking at these little quick videos of what I'm doing. It takes a lot of effort to make the videos for Patreon, and so they're going to be from 45 minutes to an hour for the color pencil instruction videos every month, and I'll be giving you color names, complete details, tips, ideas on how to come up with composition for your art, how to smooth skin tones. I've got a lot of requests for skin tones, so I'll be talking a lot about skin tones, doing some live streams for skin tones too. So if you want to watch me in full-length videos, longer videos, jump on to patreon.com and pledge at least $5 to get all the videos that I make every month. There are other levels that you can take a look at, but that way it's great motivation for me to keep making the videos and not just draw in my little isolated art studio. It helps me to continue to stay motivated and make all those videos for everyone. So if you appreciate these kind of videos and you want to watch full length, up to an hour at a time of real-time drawing, then please jump over on Patreon. Thanks.